For what we're going to be doing today is a little bit different. We've had a couple of tier lists in the Unmatched community. We're going to kick off with yet another tier list, but this one's going to be a little more different. We had Zero Skater with his competitive tier list. Always, as always, it was wonderfully well thought out. We had Jeremy's or Poindexter's with the unmatched artwork, and again, I love his videos. That one was such a good one as well. Today, we are going to be doing something a little bit crazier, and we're gonna see how well Unmatched Fighters would do if they were a on the show survivor. Now, this is a tier list no one's asked for. This is purely something that just things like this kind of exist in my brain. So I figured I'd share this out for the world to see my thoughts on this. I love Survivor. If there happens to be any Survivor producers watching, put me on the show, please. But I love Unmatched, and it has all these wacky characters, and I love Survivor, and so I figured, why not do just a really weird tier list as far as how I personally think the Unmatched people would do in Survivor. Now, there's a couple of things just to take note of. First off, I know all of the Unmatched characters to an extent, some more than others. And so if, let's say I have placed your favorites in one category that doesn't suit it, that is probably just myself not fully knowing all of the background. And with this many characters, so many different IPs, and all of that, it's impossible, at least for myself, to have a full understanding. So you might have to give me grace here as well. But we also have our list, or kind of our categories here. I'll go over them, but please also be aware that these, I will probably add a couple more into this. But let's get right down to it. So in the top tier, the S tier, obviously I have the sole survivor status. Now this is obviously the characters who I think would, in a normal season of Survivor, they would probably have the best chance of making it far as possible. I mean, anything can happen. It is, it's a crazy game in and of itself. But these would be people who I think would possess who would fundamentally kind of encapsulate everything that Survivor brings, that physicality, the social aspect, and having that strategic acumen. And then, of course, breaking it down further, we have the strategic masterminds, the people who are all big on that strategy aspect, the social butterflies, big on social, and of course the physical beasts, both in terms of challenges, how well they would do on challenges in Survivor, as well as how well they would fit in with the elements, if there's people who would just work together well in the elements. And then for the last category that I have for now, we have the fish back out of water. I think I spelled that wrong, because this is paying homage to one of, I think it's like that. This is paying homage to one of the Survivor players, Stephen Fishback, who actually went on the show, was very much out of his element, but ended up making it far. And so these will be the characters who I think would be, you send them out there, and it would not be in their element necessarily. So these are the 5 for now. The second thing I will also note is that if I place, let's say I'm putting 2 random people, this is not where they will be, but let's say I have 2 people in the same group here. The people on the farthest left is how well I think they would do at the game as a whole, and the people on the far right will be, they would fit that category, but probably wouldn't be as good in the game in that sense. So all different categories. Again, this is just for fun, so let me know if you're watching on Twitch. Leave a comment on your thoughts. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment down below as to whether you agree with any of these, whether there's some that you thought were interesting, whether I'm completely out of my going bonkers. But yeah, let's have some fun with this. Let's get started here. So I'm gonna go in release order. So starting with Alice here. I think for Alice, she would probably fit as a social butterfly to me. And this is a little bit different. Alice is a weird one for me to place, because I'm kind of basing this more off of the original texts, kind of like the original where they got them from, not necessarily how they're depicted in Unmatched. And it doesn't change for many people, but someone like Alice, it kind of does because in Unmatched, she is a little bit more like fierce and everything. She's very strong, so she could be somewhere in there as well. But I'm gonna pin her as a social butterfly. I think she's someone who's very curious, who does who she's not like she's been in situations that are just weird and wacky and adverse, and she's been able to yeah, just kind of dig into that and delve deeper. I do think, however, she can come. I think she's the type of person who either will really connect with someone or really, turn maybe someone off a little bit just with how curious she is, how based off of um, yeah, some of the interactions. I think she's kind of in the middle of the social butterfly, so I'm gonna keep it there. For Arthur, I'm actually gonna add one here. So let's go into this. Let's add a row below. No, we're gonna do that. That's what I want. And this one, let's change the color very briefly. Let's just do blue. And this one I'm gonna call the loyalty category. And these are the people, obviously, in Survivor who would be like they would stick with their alliance and they would stick with it all the way through to the end. They wouldn't be the ones to kind of backstab unless well, they wouldn't be the ones to turn on someone else unless someone turned on them. I think Arthur fits this category as well. I think, like, I debated putting him on Social Butterfly just because, like, I feel like he could get along with a lot of people, but this one I think suits him better. I see him as just like almost a born leader, which is not necessarily the greatest thing, but he's someone who would try to put himself in that leadership role and just kind of run with it, essentially go with the flow, and hope, essentially just hope that his tribe mates would stick together with him. So that's kind of where I put him on the scale. Medusa is definitely a fish back out of water here. I don't think she would thrive in an environment like this. I don't think she is very, she's not the most social person. I don't think a lot of people would want to work with her, and I don't think she would be someone who would be love the environment as well. Generally, kind of it's like a beach setting. I'm gonna put her in that section here. Sinbad. Now with Sinbad, I was going back and forth on this one. And some of it, like, some of this is on the fly as well. So you might see me kind of thinking a little bit here, but I did think a little bit like he could have everything needed for the Soul Survivor. I think he has a little bit of that strategic and the social butterfly there, but I think he will excel a lot in the physical aspect, most especially with his experience on his journeys. I think for Sinbad, he's someone who is very well traveled, and so being in the environment would bode well for him. And for a lot of the challenges, especially with recent Survivor, I think you have a lot of those challenges are more agile, or they're more focused on the mind aspect and endurance, and I think Sinbad really excels in those areas as well. So I think he would just dominate the physical game here as well. I think he would have some in the others, but I think I'm going to put him there for now, and these could change as we go along, but we're going to put him there. And speaking of physical beasts, I'm also going to put Bigfoot there as well. He's in the wilderness all the time. This is not anything new for him, but I'm going to put him behind Sinbad again, just because the communication between Bigfoot and the other sorry, I was distracted for a little bit. Just the communication between him and the other tribe mates might be a little bit off. Next, we have Robin Hood, and here's going to be our first Soul Survivor placement right here. I think Robin Hood is someone, he's very social. He has, the merry men. Someone who I think is very rootable. A lot of people can kind of get along with Robin Hood and the type of character he is. I think he's similar with Sinbad. I think he would do well with all the challenges. It would be in his element. I think, and I do think he would have that strategic, at least enough to put him in this category. And so Robin Hood, I'm going to place as our first character with the full package, the Soul Survivor qualities here. Bruce Lee. Now, Bruce Lee is a little bit of a weird one. I'm gonna add yet another one here. Let's add a row below here. We're gonna, and actually, I'm gonna keep it. Let's do like a purple for this one. Bruce Lee is gonna, yeah, this might be legitimately his own category for this, but Bruce Lee is going to be what I call, Of course, I'm blanking on it. The famous person. I had a better term for it, but it escaped my brain. So Bruce Lee is going to be, you have sometimes the survivors who are on the show who are just very well known, and they often do well. I think Bruce Lee would do well, but I had a tough time fully placing him where like on this list. I think he could be like a potential sole survivor, but I think you especially in recent, you have the recent fame of Bruce Lee and everything, and sometimes the famous people will go far, but oftentimes I don't think they at the same time a lot of people won't necessarily vote for them to win. So I'm gonna put him in this category. Yeah, we'll see how many people. It's a very niche category, but I think that fits Bruce Lee as well. And now we get to our the first Jurassic Park characters here. Now, I've watched Jurassic Park like once or twice, and I slept through half the movie, so I don't. Again, you're gonna have to give me some grace on this, and this is gonna be Buffy is a very similar. You're gonna have to. I won't have a whole lot of knowledge in that area, but based on my understanding, I think, and this is going to be for Robert Muldoon specifically. I'm gonna put him as our strategic mastermind here. I think he's someone who, again, would probably be more social than some of the other strategic players, and could excel in the environments. But I think for him, and part of this is just the way that I'm using my unmatched knowledge as well on this, even though I want to stick as close to the original source. But I think he's someone who's very strategic. I think he's someone who can put a plan in place, and if the plan goes wrong, I think he'd be able to easily get himself out of those situations just based off of his know-how, his knowledge, and so I think for that reason, I'm gonna place him here for now. We'll see what happens once again here. Raptors, they're going to be another. See, I debated putting them as physical beast as well, but again, I'm just gonna put them as fish out of water, fish back out of water. And worse still than Medusa again, just for the communications. I can only imagine how well a raptor would be able to communicate with the rest of the tribe here. And then going right back on this, we're gonna put Dracula in this as well. But I think Dracula would be able to do better than someone like a Medusa. Medusa, Dracula, I think the setting specifically would be something that he would probably struggle with. Being more based off that Victorian England era. Someone who's probably more indoors. Someone who would probably be, like the dark, and then being on the beach would not be his thing. But I think he would if he was able to get past that, I think he would be the best shot so far out of all these three to make some sort of connection and be able to do something. I truly think there could be something there for him. Invisible Man. Oh boy. Adding one more category. Let's make this happen here. So this one, this is gonna suit him so perfectly. I'm just gonna put it as that color here. We're gonna put him as the under the radar. Again, maybe some of it's just my knowledge of Invisible Man, but I think and it's gonna suit because he's literally invisible. But he is someone who I think would just float under the radar. Probably not someone who I think would. Probably not someone who I think would actually win. I think people would, again, because of the qualities that he possesses with being invisible, people would probably neglect him or like not really think about him. He would have to make himself known and make himself kind of like aware, make others aware that he is there. But how do you balance that out? So I think he's someone who could like easily fly under the radar and kind of like escape people's minds, quite literally and as well as physically as well. But that's just where we're gonna put him there. Oh boy, we're already getting quite. We have so many different tiers, and I'm gonna add one more. I'm gonna try to limit this from now on in because I don't want to just create a bunch of tiers. But I'm going to add one last one here, and we're gonna limit it to this. Then we're gonna add the flame out category. And this is going to be the category, and this will apply to Jekyll and Hyde right away. This is going to be where I feel like they could do well in the game, but again, just because of, well, there's already that color green here, just because of there's, for Jekyll and Hyde specifically, under Jekyll, I think he could do very, very well if he, stays under that Jekyll persona, being able to be social, be strategic, and everything. Being a scientist and all. But that Hyde side of who he is going to hinder his game. You don't want to be someone who has a lot of rage or is very inconsistent with the yeah, you want someone who you can rely upon, who is consistent, who will be there, who will have your back, who won't cause chaos per se. In an environment like Survivor, obviously, I think he would be someone who that Hyde side of who he is just going to make things difficult for him. So that's why we're gonna put him in the flame out category here. Next, we have Sherlock, and I mean, it would be a sin not to put him in the strategic mastermind. I am going to put him behind InGen, not because of the strategic prowess. I think of all the players here, he would have the most strategic mind in the entire game, period. But where he lacks is that social aspect, which I think InGen would do just a little bit better at. And sometimes that social game, while sometimes very underutilized, it helps you to create those strategic decisions. And I think Sherlock, he might be able to maneuver his way out. But I think that having that just that much brain power can be very intimidating. I think some people would not want to kind of get on board with some of that. I think they'd be a little bit off-putting, and sometimes that fear, that intimidation can help depending on the season, but oftentimes people will just want to they'll want to get rid of you very quick. So I put them back here. Some of it could depend on the season, but we'll leave them there for now. Now, Angel, again, apologies to any Buffy fans out there. I know very, very, very little about this group here. But we're going to put Angel. This is very, very. I'm going to do an easier one. I'm going to do Buffy. We're going to actually put Buffy. I want to put her as a social butterfly. I think, again, she could be the sole survivor right here as well. Maybe, I really do think that is a possibility. But I'm going to put her as a social butterfly. I think she's someone who can relate with people. No, we're going to do this because she has the physicality. She is able to go through adverse situations. She's able to relate to people, be a social person as well, at least to my understanding. And I do think she would have the strategic acumen to be able to make it far. So I will put her there just behind Robin Hood. I think Robin Hood probably has a better shot in my personal opinion. But that's where she's going to land. You know what? Angel's kind of brooding. He is... I wouldn't necessarily put him as the social butterfly, at least based off of my limited knowledge. I'll put him here. Let's do that. Again, just not in his element. I'm gonna put Spike here too, but just above Medusa. I think we have a trend here going with a lot of characters who just honestly wouldn't be in the situation. That's why this is such a crazy list. And so I think these two would not be, necessarily in who this might not be their normal situation. I think they could adapt to it. I think Angel, let's actually put Angel right here because I think he might adapt a little bit better than someone like a Dracula. But again, how well they would adapt, it's completely dependent. And then Willow, again, maybe less so than Jekyll and Hyde, but seeing the type of person she is, I'm gonna put her as a flame out just again because of that Dark Willow saga. and how she can kind of react in those ways. I'm just going to put her in the flame out category there as well. Now, Beowulf, to be a little bit redundant, I think I'll put him here as well. Uh, but I think I think he could connect with people. I think he's someone who would be able to get some sort of connection. He might be someone who someone would align with to have, to paint a bigger target on Beowulf's back so that they can make it further to the game. I think some people might align with him for reasons such as that. He'd be a challenge beast. I think he could use a social game, but again, that rage is gonna catch up to him. You're out there for basically a month at a time. I don't see him lasting that long without having some sort of a fit of rage, and so we'll put him there. Now, Little Red. Little Red, I think, is someone who, especially like if you consider her experience, I think, um, man, what do I want to do here? I think she might be under the radar, but I'm gonna put her uh, above Invisible Man. The reason why I put her under the radar is I think she's someone who's very unassuming, right? Someone who people might, they may not look at her as someone who is a viable, competition for the game. But I think she's someone who could be scrappy if she needs to. I think she's someone who can develop the connection and be able to make it far. And so I think that she's someone who people would underestimate, and so that's why I'm gonna put her under the radar. Achilles. Now, again, it's very easy. We have a lot of these flame out uh, characters who go into rage mode or anything. Achilles, I'm actually gonna put under this one. I think he's and again, that's a very similar niche right there. You have King Arthur, who is this big beefy dude who's he's the king, and Achilles, I think he's gonna be loyal as well, and it shows with his friendship with Patroclus. I think he's very loyal to the people he creates connections with. I think, however, I'm gonna put him behind King Arthur just because I think he would be if let's say there was a big blindside that would happen. I don't think Arthur would be quite as enraged or quite as mad as if someone were to vote out an alliance member for Achilles. I think Achilles learns of that and then he just goes berserk, and so that's why we're gonna put him here. Yeah, for under that category there. Um, Bloody Mary, again, gotta do this. We're gonna put him as Fishback out of order, and I'm gonna put her right there again, just because of just I think, well, it's close. I think will be less popular than Medusa. I think Medusa could maybe have some connections if people don't look into her eyes or anything like that. Uh, Bloody Mary, I think, would actually like just creep some people out and just have nothing to do with it. She's just savage, right? And so that's why I was like, between these two, like, I could see some people literally just keeping a raptor just for the heck of it, so they don't have to deal with Bloody Mary. Um, so we're gonna put her in that category. It's a fairly stacked category. I might have to move some people, but I don't see a whole lot of others going into that category from here on out. So let's leave it for now, and then we'll see what happens here. Sun Wukong. I'm gonna put him in the strategic mastermind, but even less than Sherlock. I think he's someone who's a very much, he's a trickster, right? He wants to trick people. He wants to make sure that that you're being fooled, and so I think he has a strategic ability to try and fool people to maneuver around. But I think even less than Sherlock, he's going to struggle with that social aspect, and people will just get annoyed. So he's going to go in that category there. Yen is going to be the third person I put as Soul Survivor. I'm actually gonna put her right there. I think she's obviously someone who would deal well with the elements. I think she's someone who, as a leader, as a natural born leader, I think she is someone who can be very strategic, especially lurking throughout the night and being able to as she's physically able to kind of use the tactics to her advantage. But I also think that she, as a natural leader, is a social butterfly. And I wouldn't put her as a leader in the same vein as like King Arthur necessarily, where King Arthur sends out his subjects and they just serve him. I see her as more involved. She probably won't put herself out there as a leader quite as much as someone like a King Arthur, and so that is why I'm going to put her in that position right there. Deadpool. You know what? I'm gonna put Deadpool. Oh, this is tough. Deadpool is like I debate putting him in that social butterfly sort of idea. But the reality is with his quirky remarks, I don't think I don't know if he would get in the good graces of his tribe as well. I'll put him under the famous person. I'm not gonna add any more, but Deadpool is the type of person who you just want as like quality TV. If you want like a good quote, I think Deadpool is so well known and so well known for just the type of person that he is that he could fit himself under this famous person mantra here. He's just someone who I really think people might he the novelty of him would be like, whoa, cool. We get to like align with Deadpool, but I don't think he would actually stick around that well. Maybe Physical Beast. Actually, I could put him under here, but again, like kind of right there, I could see that. But we need at least one more person there, so we'll put him there for now, and kind of leave it at that for the moment. What we're going next, Ghost Rider. This is going to be another interesting one. Again, I don't want to put him under that pushback under out of water. I don't want to put a flame out because I think he's a little bit different than these ones where they're very these three fighters are very inconsistent. And they can cause chaos at any point. I'm gonna put him under Physical Beast. Why not? Right there. Again, I think he's someone who, while maybe not used to the environment, I think he would do well. I think he'd be someone who would be good at the challenge aspects of it. And I think he's someone who would just rock it. I do think the social game, however, is a little bit lacking. I don't know if he's someone who would be a strategic mastermind, but I'll put him here for the moment here. Luke Cage. We're gonna continue this trend here. We're gonna put him here under Sinbad as well. Again, just someone who is just strong. I could almost maybe put him under that loyalty, but I think he's less dedicated to his tribe mates as he is just to himself, and I think he would have the ability to make a move if needed to. I don't think it would be something that is in his wheelhouse, but I think he could do something there. Unfortunately, I'm gonna put this one in a similar aspect. Flameout is a little bit bigger. It might not be the best descriptive word, but it's almost these for purposes of this exercise, it's almost that inconsistency. I don't think people would want to deal with that inconsistency, but I think he would do better than someone like Beowulf. It's kind of like close between these two. You can pick. I'll put Moon Knight above there, and we will leave it at that here. All right, Bullseye. Now, Bullseye. These are both very interesting. I think Bullseye would be someone who, and again, some of these Marvel characters I'm not the most well versed in. Let's take a look. I don't want to put him just in a physical. I think he'd be someone who'd be more strategic, right? I do think that some of the physical challenges he would do well. I don't know how social he is because is Bullseye a villain? I don't know if. Okay, wait. Is Bullseye a villain? Right. So he's a psychopathic assassin. Oh, hi there. And he has so he's that might change things. I didn't think despite being someone who is maybe a psychopath, he would have some sort of strategic. You need to be strategic in order to be an assassin. And I don't want to put another one in that flame out category. So we're gonna put him here. However, I do think once again, at adding to the characters on this list, not someone who I think would do overly well here. Daredevil, on the other hand, is someone who I think would do well. Now, I'm gonna put him like he is very physical, but again, he relies a lot on his hearing to be able to fight. I think with challenges, because that is not something that as someone who is blind, he would not be able to do well. I think in the specific context of Survivor, we're gonna put him in the social butterfly aspect. Someone who is just really, I think he could, as a hero, he might be a bit of a rogue hero, but I think that that could endear him to a lot of people. I think he can get a lot of people interested in that. But maybe he might be another under the radar person instead. Again, just because people might cast him off aside just due to the blindness that he has. But you know what? We need some social butterflies, and there's going to be a couple more here that we'll include here. So let's put them underneath there. Electra. Oh. Okay. So Electra is, yeah, again, someone who is I believe she's a villain here. I think she's someone who, yeah, we're just gonna place her. I think because it seems like she is a villain here. I'm gonna put her there again, but maybe better than, let's go right here. I think she's someone who, again, as a villain working for this organization, I think she is someone who can, again, use her brain to plot and be able to disturb things. But I just don't have enough on her to like put her anywhere else. This is going based off of just just a very minimal amount of knowledge, so we'll put her there. Sattler, complete social butterfly. I think as a doctor, she's someone who, again, people gets on people's good graces for the most part. I think she is someone who is, and as someone who's generally non-combative, I think she is someone who it would be able to really, really, really get to know the tribe mates and really make a big impact on the game here. Um, I love the comment here, Poindexter. Sattler's the one person who is essentially one survivor. She got off an island and didn't die. This is true. This is true. So again, maybe based off experiences. I'm gonna put her here just because we need some more people in that category, and it's not as much of a niche category. But it is true, and the reality is with Survivor, you can be someone who excels in one category and win. So I do think she is someone who is yeah, that's actually really cool how there's that parallel there. Uh, T-Rex. Now, I could go the same route with the Raptors, but I'm actually gonna put T-Rex under that whole famous person. Here's why. The T-Rex is like this monumental figure. Like how many people, like if you were to say I went on Survivor and I made an alliance with a raptor, it's like, okay, that's pretty neat. It's pretty cool. But if you go on Survivor, say I went on Survivor and had made an alliance with a T-Rex, that's a big deal. The T-Rex is like this absolute beast, known in culture today, and people love T-Rexes. So I mean, he's not going to do well in Survivor. He's probably going to get voted, but he's totally fits this famous person mantra right there. And then the last two we have the Genie and Houdini. Now, with the Genie, oh, is this another Soul Survivor moment? It might be. Now, the other thing is, like, I'm assuming this is a genie who is I don't know the full. I know Aladdin. I know the genie is eventually freed of the lamp. I don't know if the genie does ever get freed of his prison, so to speak. That idea that he has to grant wishes, and so if that is canon, I don't think he would be Soul Survivor because people can easily manipulate that. But I do think he's someone who would probably fit under the social butterfly. I think that he is someone who would be able to get into people's good graces just because of just the natural, like who he is. People will want to work with him. He might be a social butterfly whether he likes it or not. And so we'll put him there. I think that's a really good place for him. And then Houdini, oh, I'm debating because I my initial thought is you put him under the strategic mastermind because understanding I'm not a big illusionist like myself, like I don't do these big tricks, but understanding that world, being like growing up in that environment and still being a part of that whole show business and the illusionist business to some extent. It takes a lot of strategy to plan that out, and you can see, I mean, both in Unmatched, but like also in just illusions, like I think he would be someone who would be able to be very unassuming. Like he could almost be an under the radar person as well, where I'm almost debating whether to put him there. Okay, let's put him there just to kind of beef this category up here. But again, I I think he's someone who would be behind the scenes to like create this elaborate plan and then to pull it off, to be able to do this one fantastic thing just like an illusion here. um Actually, I think I like this because I think it's for him, it's going to be that timing, right? Like when do you pull off the big move in Survivor? Some people love to have those big moves. Some people, some seasons it's not a big deal. It's some of those subtleties. uh so I think depending on the season, like that can be great, to be able to build up that resume, right? To be able to make an impact, to be able to influence the game in such a major way. However, I think with Houdini, it's just a matter of the timing and whether it's right for the season, right? I think for someone like a Houdini who might be under the radar and setting this up, and then he springs this thing and like shocks everyone. Does he have enough time afterwards to be able to make it to the end after that, after making this big show of everyone, and being able to do this thing? Because then people will understand just how strategic he actually is. So again, another one, and a lot of these could be in multiple different categories, but that's one where I could see him being in the strategic mastermind or the sole survivor. Um, yeah, so that's it. This is the tier list here, and again, these are all the different categories. And the left, I think, would be kind of the best in that role. So for example, I think as far as sole survivor, I think Yanenga has the best shot in this game, not only being top tier in Unmatched, but being top tier in Survivor, in my opinion. Um, I think this is kind of the tier list here. And so, yeah, I mean, for someone like myself, it's very interesting. It would be like a really cool premise to be like, these fighters in Unmatched have been battling out on the physical battlefield, but now how will they deal with that social, strategic battlefield? Something like that. Obviously, the catchphrase would be a little bit more succinct and well thought out rather than just on the spot. But yeah, this is the tier list. Let me know your thoughts in the comments if you're on Twitch here, or if you're watching this on YouTube when this has been put up. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are, what changes you would have made if I was completely wrong on some of them. Probably will happen. Um, yeah, and if you want to see, because I've been dabbling around, and I actually had a bit of a project on actually running a Survivor simulation with some of the cast in Unmatched. Whether that's something that would be of interest, I might do it anyways, just because again, that's what my weird brain thinks of. But yeah, let me know. I would love to. We might see that on the channel here, kind of see it play out in certain seasons. But yeah, that's going to be it for the tier list. So if you're watching on YouTube, that's going to be it for the video, and we'll hope to see you on the next one. Take care.